we have the right topic for this audience. Because you're all senior citizens, not all, but a number of senior citizens here. Just set it down. Add it to the collection. Just set it down. Okay. Before I begin, should I adjust the topic? Look around the room.
We would love a deeper topic.
Huh?
We would love a deeper topic.
A deeper topic.
Are newer people coming? You know, newer people are coming.
Because this is suited for anybody, but particularly for newer people. Okay.
Yeah, he's saying mostly devotees.
Okay. Well, because of this weekend, and Prabhupada's arrival and all of that, one of the plans I'm thinking, my wheels are turning and it's not coming up with maybe the best answer, but because the plan on Sunday at the Boston Temple is a timeline of Prabhupada preparing himself and coming and everything, from early meeting Bhaktisiddhanta, etc. Yesterday evening, something similar, but different. Different in the sense that their personality was different, but it was, his personality that Srila Prabhupada very much respected. Of course, there's Bhaktisiddhanta, but Jiva Goswami, because a few days ago, it was simultaneously Jiva Goswami's appearance day and Vamana Dwadasi. So Vamana 1. We spoke about Vamana, Lord Vamana's appearance day on Vamana Dwadasi. So yesterday evening was makeup. So we had conversation on Jiva Goswami, and it's a very nice topic. Maybe it's a suited topic for this audience. Little biographical sketch of he's a very amazing personality. I think we'll do that. Jiva Goswami. I'm going to remove this so you don't see what I'm doing. Is that all right? The life of Jiva Goswami. Yes, no, or maybe
Yes.
something else.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Okay, let's go here. Slideshow. Okay. So that was the 4th. Today is the 9th. There's 5 days difference. It's okay. We probably, each of us probably have some heroes. And in addition to, our spiritual master or Srila Prabhupada or something like that, some predecessor personality that we just go. And for me, Jiva Goswami is one of those personalities. What happened?
Can you bring the mic closer to yourself?
What?
Can you bring the mic closer to yourself?
Can you turn this on? think you're gonna have to turn the volume up a little bit. It's pretty close to my mouth, but it's still not so loud. Well, once upon a time, all good stories begin with once upon a time. Once upon a time, I was a college kid, and I didn't know anything about Krishna. But I had a friend who knew something about Krishna, and his name was Borijan Prabhu. Borijan Prabhu, you know at least of him. And we went to university together, and one fine day we were having lunch together, and at the end of lunch he just gave me a Back to Godhead magazine. I didn't know what a Back to Godhead magazine was. I didn't know anything about anything. But because it was from him and he was a friend, I carried along with my stack of books and clipboard, and in between the books and the clipboard was the Back to Godhead magazine. I carried it around with me from, I didn't read it, I just carried it around. And then one fine day, somebody saw another somebody I know, and somebody said, "Oh no, you're not into that, are you?" Into what? Well, you don't want to be into that. So I got interested, so I read the magazine. It was probably, 1969, a few years ago. Maybe it was 68, maybe 68, 69. And the Back to Godhead that particular Back to Godhead article issue was, the feature article was Bhaktisiddhanta. Prabhupada approved that some of his articles could be the topic of Back to Godhead magazine. So the title of his article was "The Bhagavat is Ontology and Morphology." So I had to look up 3 words in the title. And then I read the article. And college kid, you underline things and write things in the margin and look things up, and his vocabulary is way up there. So I looked up a lot of stuff. And at the end of 3 hours, it took 3 hours to go through the article. And I reached 2 conclusions. One, I don't understand it. And the second was that although I didn't understand it, my experience, subjective experience, was he took me to a place that I'd never been to before, a place of consciousness that I'd never been to before. And I had, it was something that I didn't even know how to express what I was looking for, but it was what I was looking for. Transcendence, or something. So he became a hero. And then some other things and other things and other things happened. So he still is. And one of the things that I liked very much was Sri Brahma Samhita, because he wrote, and the BBT published Sri Brahma Samhita with the commentary in English, super high English, Bhaktisiddhanta in English. And then I found out that his commentary was based upon the commentary of Jiva Goswami. So then I got an English translation of Jiva Goswami's Sri Brahma Samhita commentary. And it wasn't a one-to-one, but it was this similar experience, like, whoa. And so I've been too busy, but there's a project that's kind of in the parking lot of writing a readable rendering of Sri Brahma Samhita commentary, along with the translations. But those two, And because Srila Prabhupada regularly, and all of our Gaudiya Acharyas, along with Rupa Goswami, continuous reference to Jiva Goswami because of his prolific writing. And so I'm going to speak something about him, but you can know something is going on inside me more than just like facts and history. And he's a hero. Heroes mean something to somebody who looks at an individual as a hero. The words go in, and the accomplishments. So here's a very nice painting, the 6 Goswamis, and something that they would do. They didn't regularly get together like this, all 6 of them, but from time to time they would come together in different numbers, and one of their principal activities was discussing their writings amongst one another and seeking critique. Because, they're Vaishnavas, but and super elevated Vaishnavas, and it's a standard practice for persons who are very capable. They want critical feedback. They want refinement of what they say and how they say it, and so they weren't. I'm this great acharya, so no need. Well done. Okay, so we're going to discuss his life, some features of his life. Here's the span of his life. So he didn't live super old, but he was an amazing personality from the very beginning. From the very beginning, he had a fascination for Krishna Balaram. In the biographies, there are multiple little smidgen of biographies that describe this. It wasn't just dolls, like small children will sometimes have dolls, Krishna Balaram dolls. He had deities, Krishna Balaram deities. And he would talk to them, he would cook for them, he would play with them, they would play with him. And he would be sometimes with his friends and sometimes just by himself. The biography describes he would go to bed holding them to his chest and have conversations with them. And they were very dear to him, and he was very dear to them. And as you know, his father was one of the 3 brothers, Rupa, Sanatan, and Anupam. Rupa and Sanatan were both Krishna Bhaktas, and Anupam was a Ram Bhakta. And his son was a Krishna Bhakta from the very, very, very beginning. And his father died when he was around 8 or 10 years old. And when his father died, he had a lot of affection for his father, so it was very difficult for him to deal emotionally, for him to deal with. And from his uncles in particular, and his father, he had heard a lot about Lord Chaitanya. So is everything okay? Okay. So he was too young to go all the way to Puri. Lord Chaitanya was still present on the planet. He was too young to go all the way to Puri, but he wanted to see the places of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes in Navadvip, which wasn't so far from his home. And so he went. And when he went, waiting for him, greeting him was Nityananda. Somehow. somehow Nityananda knew. Nityananda knew somehow because he's omniscient. So he greeted him, and when he greeted him, he already knew what Jiva Goswami wanted, so he took him to all the places of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. He took him on a full parikrama of Navadvip Dham, all this place, and he knew the places because he was with him. All the time they were in Navadvip. And with, first-hand experience. It's just different when we go. And in the painting, it depicts something that he described that came about at a later point in time. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also had the same vision of the Adbhuta Mandir and all that. So Nityananda described when the day will come, when this wonderful Adbhuta Mandir will manifest in Navadvip. Here's another painting depicting the same. When they completed their parikrama or tour of Navadvip, then Nityananda gave some very explicit instructions to Jiva Goswami, which he followed. He said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants you to go to Vrindavan. So he didn't go. He could have gone to Puri, but he didn't go to Puri. He went straight to, he went to Vrindavan, went in the direction of Vrindavan. And because Lord Chaitanya has given to your two uncles Vrindavan as their home, the eternal home. And first, Mahaprabhu wants you to go to Benares and study Sanskrit under Madhusudana Vachaspati. Now, Benares is not a nice place that you would normally think you want to send a young Vaishnava boy to. But, by divine arrangement, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, because you've been around a while, does anyone doesn't know who Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is? Mataji, do you know who is Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya? She doesn't speak English. Okay. Do you know who is Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya? When Lord Chaitanya first went to Puri, many things happened, but he went into the Jagannath temple and he, in ecstasy, swooned and collapsed on the floor in ecstatic love. The guards were going to toss him out. Who is this crazy fellow? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya just happened to come there right at the right time and saw what was going on. He said, no, don't toss him out. Bring him to my home. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was the chief scholar. He had thousands of sannyas disciples, a super scholar. And many things happened, but super scholarly. In course of time, he, who had been not a Vaishnava, became a Vaishnava by Lord Chaitanya's association. There's details, wonderful details. So at some point in time, he had one of his leading disciples was Madhusudana Vachaspati, and he sent him to Benares. Part of the reason for sending him to Benares was, like he had become a Vaishnava, Madhusudana Vachaspati had also become a Vaishnava. But he was super scholarly. So Sarvabhauma wanted him to influence the scholarship in Benares, which is just the opposite of Vaishnavas, and see what you can do. But there was another reason. He was to become a teacher of Jiva Goswami, of Sanskrit, in Benares. While he was studying in Benares, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left this world. So here's a nice painting that shows Benares by the shore of the sacred river. And he studied and studied and studied. And already Sarvasambhadani, which is a commentary that parallels, it's a commentary on the Sat Sandarbhas before he wrote the Sandarbhas. Do that one again, please. He had such a mind that he would understand what he wanted to write even before he wrote it, he's writing explanations, because the Sandarbhas is not a verse by verse by verse by verse commentary like Prabhupada did, but it's topic by topic by topic by topic commentary. And then subtopics and subtopics of those topics, and it goes back to the main topic. And so there's 6 Sandarbhas on different topics. Sarva Samvadini is the commentary on those topics. He started writing Sarva Samvadini when he was a young fellow, still a student. And it was so spectacular that even before he finished his studies, he's a famous personality. When he completed his studies, Madhusudana Vachaspati gave his blessing, and off he went to Vrindavan. And when he reached Vrindavan, he was same as what Nityananda did in Navadvip. They took him on parikrama of all the places of Braja, and they knew all the places in Braja. And they were in the process, and mandated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to restore those places. Some of that work Jiva Goswami did, you'll hear as we go along. And he not just did parikrama, but he did service to Rupa and Sanatan, because he very much liked service. And eventually Rupa gave him mantra diksha. In fact, it's the only known, Jiva Goswami is the only known diksha disciple of Rupa Goswami. You know, the superlative luminary Rupa Goswami had one disciple, that's Jiva Goswami. So one of the things that was trendy or fashionable or common was scholarship in places of high learning, where there's super scholars, many, like take, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, the Ivy League universities, for example. It's the seat of high learning, and Oxford University, scholarly people. So it was fashionable that a scholarly person from this place or that place would go on tour, and they would challenge the most scholarly people in this seat of high learning or that seat of high learning to a debate. And one of those persons, in this case, was Vallabhacharya. He came to Vrindavan not to debate, but he heard of the reputation of Rupa Goswami, and he had written a commentary on the Bhagavatam, Tattva Deepa, and he wanted Rupa Goswami to critique it. And so Rupa Goswami agreed, and in turn Rupa Goswami requested him, because it's what Vaishnavas, he's from a different sampradaya, but respecting one another's orientation towards Vishnu, or Vishnu Bhakti or Krishna Bhakti. Rupa Goswami requested, can you do the same with my Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu? So Vallabhacharya agreed. You see, accepting some service. And after some days they met again, and Vallabhacharya took exception to, he said, I have a recommendation. You may have used the wrong word, this word pichachi. Bhukti mukti spriha yavat pishachi riddhi vartate. Here's the translation. The material desire to enjoy the material world and the desire to become liberated from material bondage are considered to be two witches, and they haunt one like ghosts. So witches appears twice. So he said this material affinity, that's easy to understand, but liberation, it's real liberation is beyond material. So how is that a witch? You might want to use a different word. Critique. It's like scholars, they're not just bashing, it was out of affection. So you might want to find another word. So Rupa Goswami thought, let me think. He didn't say yes or no, he just said, let me consider what your recommendation is. And in the end of their dialogue, Jiva Goswami, could you take Vallabhacharya to the Jamuna? He'd like to take his midday bath and chant his Gayatri. So on their walk to the Jamuna, Jiva Goswami let him have it. You have no idea who is this Rupa Goswami. And not only did he choose the right word, here's why it's the right word, and for 20 minutes on the walk to the river Jamuna, he let him have it. Like, strong, Jiva Goswami. He was defending the honor of his guru. So he wasn't just a little boy with this very senior Vaishnava. He's defending the honor of his guru from his vantage point. And when Vallabhacharya went back, he narrated to Rupa Goswami what had happened. He said, this disciple of yours, he's amazing. You're so fortunate to have, he gave these arguments, those arguments, and he was right. So it's a very good word, Pishachi, leave it. And Vallabhacharya went elsewhere. Rupa didn't like it. He said, what have you done? You're a little boy. You're instructing the senior Vaishnava who I requested to do some service to assist me, and you're correcting him and scolding him, and this kind of behavior is not fit for someone who's living in Vrindavan. You should leave Vrindavan. Just like that. Leave Vrindavan. Not only leave him, leave Vrindavan. Both. Jiva Goswami was smashed. I mean, he didn't say, wait a minute, yeah, but his guru instructed, so he left. But he didn't go too far. He went to Mathura, because that's out of Vrindavan. And nobody knew where he went. And some time passed. I forget the duration of time, a month, 2 months, something. And Sanatana Goswami was worried. Where's Jiva Goswami? His uncle. Where's Jiva Goswami? So he heard that some sadhu was living in an alligator hole by the side of the Jamuna. So can you take me to that place? So he took him to that place. It's Nandagat. And sure enough, there was Jiva Goswami in the alligator hole. Now, there wasn't an alligator in the hole at the time, but where alligators sometimes would stay. And for that period of time, he all he ate was Jamuna mud. You get sick. I mean, most people. So Sanatana Goswami was feeling so sad, seeing this weakened condition of his health and well-being. So he convinced Jiva, you come with me. So he brought him back to Rupa Goswami, but said, you stay over there. Hey, I don't want him to see you yet. So then he gave him a quiz. Rupa, I have a question for you. Can you please tell me your understanding of the most wonderful quality of a Vaishnava? And Rupa Goswami said, Jiva Daya. He said, very good. And I have one Jiva. You should show your Daya to this Jiva. He's feeling very sorry, so please forgive him. And so he was allowed to remain back in Vrindavan, and now some persons criticize Jiva Goswami, contemporaries. Just see, this man is proud, da 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 da. But it wasn't him. It was his guru. The words of his guru should be respected, and that's what he was doing. Anyway, on another occasion, I mentioned this traveling, debating personality. The source of what I'm about to tell you comes from a book named Prem Vilas. Prem Vilas. So in Prem Vilas, it describes that this fellow, Rupa Narayan, doesn't say where he is from, but he was one of these traveling debating guys, Digvijay Pandit. And when he got to Vrindavan, he heard from everybody, Rupa, Sanatan, they're the best. So he went to Rupa and Sanatan and challenged them in debate. And they understood right away that the fellows puffed up and we're not going to waste our time. And so, if you want to see the screen, you're welcome to sit over here. But if you don't need to see the screen, just want to hear, that's okay too. Okay. And thank you for moving. You understood. I just saw you. Okay. Rupa Sanatan said, "You're too intelligent. We'll be defeated by you. Just tell us what you would like us to write, or tell like me to write, and I'll write it and sign it." So Rupa Narayan, super scholar, dictated what he wanted them to write. They wrote and signed it. So he's got these two. You've defeated us, and he defeated me in debate. And then some time passed, and Rupa Narayan heard there's another super scholar here in town, Jiva. Jiva had heard, but he learned a little bit of a lesson to not be uppity. So he accepted the debate challenge. And the topic of debate was, a very basic one. Is the form, is the personality of Godhead with form or without form? Form or formless? Because there's scriptures that seem to indicate. So, 10-day debate, and he was overwhelmed with the scholarship of Jiva Goswami, and he accepted defeat. He not only accepted defeat, but Jiva Goswami was giving all credit to Rupa. So he became an ardent follower of Rupa Goswami and read his writings. And then from reading his writings, he understood Jiva Goswami is also super scholarly. So he stayed for several years in Vrindavan, studied under Rupa and Jiva Goswamis, the Satsandarbhas, etc., etc., etc. So a very important event that, with the right purpose, and Rupa Goswami understood his purpose. He helped Rupa Narayan become not just a super scholar, but a Vaishnava, an elevated Vaishnava. According to this Prem Vilas, he remained in Vrindavan for something like 10 years, and then he went traveling and teaching the teachings of Rupa and Jiva Goswami, Digvijay Pandit. One of the multiple, very important contributions of Jiva Goswami was to arrange the next in line in disciplic succession. So I'm putting my hand up in the air. This is Lord Chaitanya. Before Lord Chaitanya, Ishwar Puri, Madhavendra Puri, then Lord Chaitanya, then Rupa and Sanatan, then Jiva. So over generations, it's not uncommon that the disciplic succession kind of dissipates, becomes less prominent. Not zero, but less prominent. So that's not what happened in the case of Jiva Goswami, because he trained up the next 3 acharyas that represented and continued the disciplic succession. I'm going to ask for volunteers, 3 volunteers. You got to raise your hand. Name of one of those 3. Narottam Das Thakur. Srinivasacharya,
Goes with the 12
Shamananda Pandit. So that's Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, and Shamananda Pandit. So those are those three. And he trained them thoroughly, so they became as gifted as he. Their natures were different. Some of them became more poets and wrote songs. Some of them this and some of them that. But he carried forward very effectively the disciplic succession, the next generation, and they in turn, same thing. He, all of his writings, we'll hear a little bit later, all of his writings and all the writings of Rupa Goswami, the original manuscripts, and the original manuscripts of Sanatana Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami, the original manuscripts were all given to Jiva Goswami. And he kept them. And eventually those manuscripts, because they were deteriorating to some degree, they have ways of treating the original manuscripts. So in the recent last 50 years or 60 years, something like that, the entire manuscripts were given to the Vrindavan Research Institute. So this is a page showing his original handwriting, preserved. Some chemicals or something they do to preserve the original manuscript. Of course, they make copies of it, so it, word for word is precise from the original manuscript. That's important to maintain. Sometimes it's not maintained and makes it messy. Here's a nice painting. It's this picturing Jiva Goswami giving lectures. In the place is in the courtyard of the Radha Damodar temple. And on the upper left, that's his deity on that throne, on the upper left, in the center, up the steps. And then now the main altar is behind that railing. So here's some of the books that he wrote. I'm going to go through them, a few of them. Bhakti Ratnakar is the source of who these books are, what the names of the books. What's Bhakti Ratnakar? Bhakti Ratnakar is chronologically after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's departure. It's a chronological narration of the events of persons' lives who are followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's what Bhakti Ratnakar is. Narahari Chakravarti is the author. A very respected, precise text. So one of the things in this book is his 25 books, the list of the names. Some of you may know, we'll start with the first one, Hari Namamrita Vyakarana. Vyakarana means grammar. So when Nimai Pandit was young, he was a grammar teacher, Vyakarana. And after he received Diksha from his guru, he then modified the method of teaching, and the teaching, because so many rules and recitations, he just put names of Hari connected with each one, each rule, each procedure. Hari Namamrita Vyakarana. It was Nimai Pandit's own composition. And Jiva Goswami knew of it, and I don't know if he had a copy of it, but then he wrote his own. Well, one of his 25 books. Then he wrote Gopal Champu. It's said that he not only wrote Gopal Champu, but he wrote a book explaining how do you write a champu. Very scholarly. And then he wrote Gopal Champu. Purva and Uttara, his pastimes in Vrindavan, his pastimes outside of Vrindavan, Krishna. So it's like a 10th canto commentary. in and out of Vrindavan. Gopal Champu. Krama Sandarbha is a Bhagavatam commentary verse by verse, like Prabhupada did. Almost all the verses, commentary by Jiva Goswami. And then the next 6 are the 6 Sandarbhas, along with the Sarva Samvadani, which is the commentary on the 6 Sandarbhas, which he wrote before he wrote the Sandarbhas. Topic by topic. Tattva Sandarbha, Bhagavat Sandarbha, Paramatma Sandarbha, Krishna Sandarbha, Bhakti Sandarbha, Priti Sandarbha. And so there's some overlap, of course, but the topics are distinct. The Bhagavatam has multiple topics within one book. So he just broke it down. Then, number 10. Radha Krishna Archana Deepika, Krishnarchana Deepika. It's a book describing how to worship Radha and Krishna together, as opposed to some that don't worship Radha with Krishna. See the painting of Balaji? Something you see in the center, there's a deity of his Shakti, but she's not worshipped with him. Those who are Vaishnavas don't worship Radha Krishna or Sita Ram. They worship a form of the Lord that's just the Lord without the Shakti. So he wrote a book on why it should be with Shakti and how the procedure should be done. Very scholarly. Madhava Mahotsava. You know about that book? You know what Utsava is, festival, right? Maha Utsava, big festival, about Madhava. But this is a big festival about Madhava, but it's about Radharani. Madhava Mahotsava. So the narration goes like this. Radha and Krishna are in each other's company. Come on in. So Radha and Krishna are in each other's company. There's some situation that arises. Radharani becomes angry. A loving anger, not the other kind. So she goes and pouts. Man. Transcendental. And Krishna tries to break her anger and this and that and the other thing, and nothing works, and she's maintaining angry at him, and so something is done, and the big festival she is a big festival where she becomes the queen of Vrindavan, and he's subordinate to her. So she, Samrita Sindhu, he wrote a commentary on that one. Ujjwala Nilamani, he wrote a commentary on that one, and so forth and so on and so on and so on. So many, many, many writings. And just to get a picture of what 400,000 verses looks like. Young lady here in the front row. Do you know how many verses there are in Bhagavad Gita? 700. Do you know how many verses there are in Srimad Bhagavatam? 18,000. 18,000. Do you know how many verses there are in Mahabharata? 100,000. How many verses are there in Ramayana? 24,000. And, you know, a good part of Ramayana and Mahabharata is like stories. Now, Jiva Goswami didn't so much write stories. It's like high philosophy and subdivisions of those. It's highly philosophical and foundational for the whole Gaudiya Sampradaya. So it's like he wrote like 6 or 7 Srimad Bhagavatams and 2 or 3 Ramayanas and Mahabharata and 10 or 12 Bhagavad Gitas and some small books. Highly philosophical. It's beyond human. As a disciple of Rupa Goswami, one time Rupa Goswami had a dream. And in his dream, Rupa Goswami saw Govindaji, his deity Govindaji, appeared in his dream. And the deity then showed Rupa Goswami in his dream the Damodar form, the little boy form. Then the deity of Damodar instructed Rupa Goswami to carve a deity exactly with these features for your disciple. And his dream broke. So he did. He also composed the pranam mantra for the deity of Damodar. Here's the translation. Oh, on Lord Damodar, whose dark bodily luster embarrasses the blue lotus flowers, the splendor of whose silken garments stuns the glory of yellow kumkum, who enjoys transcendental pastime in Vrindavan forest, whose chest is fragrant with a brilliant flower garland, and whose magnificent arms rest on Radha's shoulders, let me meditate. Now that was the pranam mantra for the deity. It's found in one of his Rupa Goswami's books called Stavamala. And here's a photograph of the deity that he carved. It is said that he got the marble from Vindhya Parvat, and the deity was worshipped by Jiva Goswami in Vrindavan, and when many of the deities were taken from Vrindavan, the original deity, there's a replacement or Pratibhu deity on the altar at Radha Damodar temple, but the original is now in Jaipur. And there's Radha by his side, and Lalita by the other side. So here's the altar, here's a close-up of the deity. Now, when he first had this deity, there was no Radha Damodar temple. All there was a place where it is said that Radha and Krishna, one of their places of rasa dance, Sevakunj, was that place. So he used to worship in some kunj, in a grove, at Sevakunj. Now the photo is actual Sevakunj today. Some portion of it wasn't destroyed. Just to give some idea of Jiva Goswami's savvy, in the year 1558, he purchased Sevakunj. And who did he purchase it from? From Emperor Akbar's local landlord. So Emperor Akbar had vast holdings, vast place that he ruled. One of those places was in Vrindavan. So the landlord for Vrindavan, Ali Kant Chaduri, Jiva Goswami purchased Sevakunj from him. And it marked by 4 trees. Imli Tal, those of you who have been to Vrindavan, you may know where some of these places are. And Rasastali, Dan Guli, and Shringar Stali. Those are places that when you go to Vrindavan you may visit. And he paid 35 rupees. And then he built the temple. Until then he was just worshipping them in the Sevakunj area. And when he worshipped his deity, there are the descriptions of the intimacy between him and his deity. So sometimes the deity asked Jiva Goswami, cook such and such preparation. So he cooked such and such preparation. Then he placed the preparation and watched Damodar eat the preparation. And sometimes, during this eating of the preparations, he would recite verses. And sometimes, while reciting verses, Damodar would dance. And sometimes he was called by Damodar to hear his flute playing. And when he heard his flute playing, he fainted. Jiva Goswami fainted. And then he composed the following prayers. O Hari, all glories to your childlike pastimes which you enjoy with Balaram. You give happiness to Mother Yashoda. This is his childhood Damodar feature. You give happiness to Mother Yashoda with your crawling, and the sight of you blesses the eyes of every last person in Vrindavan. O child, the eager movements of your feet stir your anklets to make tinkling sounds that delight the hearts of all. O Krishna, even when you meet strangers, you share your bliss with them and then quickly crawl back onto the safety of your mother's lap. This is from Gopal Champu, and there's something about, we had a little discussion yesterday. Some parts of a champu are meant to be sung. They're just verses and verses and verses, and they're meant to be sung. Some of them are not like that, just as a certain part of the style, the composition of a champu. And that's where this is taken from. Now, on the altar, because Jiva Goswami, had a place of safety, he actually had a temple, and he was so absorbed in deity worship, then in course of time, different senior Vaishnavas like Krishnadas Kaviraj had a deity of Radha Vrindavan Chandra. And the Radha Vrindavan Chandra deity was given to Jiva Goswami to look after, following the departure of Krishnadas Kaviraj. Now these are the same deities that were worshipped by Krishnadas, and the same deity worshipped by Jiva Goswami when Vrindavan shifted later to Jaipur. So very sweet, appealing features of the deity. One time, the same Emperor Akbar, we're going to hear his name several times, he very much appreciated the Goswamis, and he particularly appreciated Jiva Goswami, so he invited Jiva Goswami to come to his palace and preside over a debate that was being discussed in his court, and he couldn't sort it out. The debate was on which is greater, the river Jamuna or the river Ganga. And he wanted him to settle the debate. So Jiva Goswami said, yes, but I have to be back in Vrindavan at night because I don't want to even be out of Vrindavan for one day, one overnight. So Akbar sent a royal carriage, like a Rolls Royce, and brought him with carriage and horses to ensure his safe return. There's the topic, and at the end of the day, Akbar was very satisfied with the conclusion, the Jamuna, and he wanted to give him a gift. And Jiva Goswami said, I'm a mendicant, I don't need a gift, but one thing that comes to mind that would be very nice, if you could give me some paper. I've been told they have very nice writing paper from China. So Akbar arranged for Jiva Goswami now not just to have plantain leaves, but writing paper. Some say that Jiva Goswami, agreed for the king to provide him with copies of the Puranas available in Benares, because that's where he did his undergraduate studies. And there are copies of those books in Benares. So, no surprise if he did it. It's not confirmed. And Akbar donated funds to Jiva Goswami to establish a library. That is to say, take the originals, have Brahmin scribes make copies of the originals and keep them safely in the library. You're in charge of the library. Here's the money for the scribe, here's the money for the library. You take responsibility for it. So he did. Inscribed on a plaque in Urdu, Akbar's language, Jiva Goswami placed a sign within the library honoring Emperor Akbar's character and benevolent position regarding protecting Vaishnavas. The sign reads, Maharaj Akbar is a good and Vaishnava ruler. In his kingdom, the Vaishnavas are protected. And it wasn't until, according to this report, 1945, this entire library of Jiva Goswami that was in the care of the Vrindavan, the Radha Damodar temple, Panda, in charge, they transferred the library to the Vrindavan Research Institute. That's where the books are now. There's more. I told you you're going to hear about Akbar. In his 34th year of Akbar's rule, Akbar, Commander-in-Chief Rajman Singh constructed a magnificent temple for Govindaji. Akbar also gave money to cover the expenses, along with the land for the temple construction, and as well as the land for Madan Mohan's temple. I mean, he's the king, and he can do what he wants, and he did what he wants. And he was a Vaishnava. Inscribed in stone on the right quadrant of the main temple hall, that's Radha Govinda's temple, Govindaji's temple, Govinda Astakam, Jiva Goswami's Govinda Astakam, where he blesses the emperor. When Akbar used to easily or peacefully rule the whole earth well, then all the gentlemen experienced happiness while following their respective religions freely and knowing the abode of Lord Govinda's place, Vrindavan, to be the abode of the best. Vaishnavas repeatedly blessed him. So here's a mark where that carving is in Sanskrit. Now the outline is, somebody superimposed that on the photograph, but that's his Jiva Goswami's glorification. In addition, Emperor Akbar made a gift of a very large diamond to Madhavendra Puri's Gopal deity, because Gopal deity for a long time was in Vrindavan during the time of Akbar, during the time of the six Goswamis. Later the deity was shifted. And the diamond was placed on his chin. You can see this is the deity, and here's a photograph of a painting of the deity, and there's the diamond, a large diamond on his chin. And here's another similar painting with a large diamond on his chin. Emperor Akbar gifted a very large, what happened? We went backwards. Here we go. Then something else happened. Something else, Jiva Goswami's service. Here he is in Vrindavan with the successive acharyas, and he has in charge of all the library of the Goswami literature. Way over on the eastern side of India, there's Janava. Nityananda had left this world, and she was remaining, and she was a superlative Vaishnavi, and she wanted that the teachings of the Goswamis be carried to the eastern parts of India. So she personally made that request of Jiva, and he personally fulfilled her request. Copies and copies and copies were loaded on a bullock cart, and then they were taken to eastern parts of India. Many of you know this history, but there was a ruler in transit. His astrologer said, fabulous treasure is coming into your kingdom. You should usurp it, make it yours. So he found out where that was coming from, and he stole the books in the dead of night, where that in the dead of night, when the three acharyas woke up in the morning and the bullock cart was gone, they were very disturbed. One remained behind. He gathered the books back and made the king a Vaishnava. And so the books made it. But along with, someone became a Vaishnava along the way. Jiva Goswami sent 3 principal students to give these teachings. Now, Mirabai, many of you know who Mirabai is, at Vrindavan, along with other places, and she made a personal request to meet with Jiva Goswami. Now, mendicants don't meet with Mirabais, but he in a certain condition, circumstance, agreed. She wanted to hear him speak, he spoke. He wanted to hear her sing, she sang. They were respecting each other's gift that Krishna had given to one another. It wasn't like, an extended exchange, but there was some meeting of the two. Then the same Rajman Singh, he had developed a great affection for Raghunath Das Goswami. Looking around the room, many of you are senior devotees, and so you know who all these people are. At least you know who Raghunath Das Goswami is, right? Yes? So Raghunath Das Goswami was living at Radhakund, but there was no Radhakund. He was living at the place that Lord Chaitanya had determined, this is Radhakund. But it was just, a pond in the middle of an agricultural field. And he was devoted as it was Radhakund. So Rajman Singh developed great appreciation for Jagannath Das Goswami and offered him gift. He said, I don't need anything, but you can construct a kund for Radharani. So he gave all the funds to excavate, and guess who got the privilege of constructing? It was Jiva Goswami. He organized the excavation of Radhakund. Now, many of you have probably seen, if you haven't, you can do a little research, you can find, the Radhakund goes down and down and down and down, and there's steps, because periodically every some number of years, they drain all the water out, they clear all the mud that's gathered at the bottom, they use the mud for tilak that they sell the rest of the next several years, all around the Radhakund, because it's the mud from the Radhakund tilak. And the construction took some time. It took years and years and years, and overseeing all of it. He wasn't an engineer, but Jiva Goswami oversaw it. And Rajman Singh built the first 8 steps on all sides of the Kund. And Jiva Goswami, in memory of Rajman Singh, he wrote some verses glorifying him. It said, right along those steps in Radhakund. So, Jiva Goswami, I mentioned this, but from his childhood or from his undergraduate studies days in Benares, he had a super. Bhaktisiddhanta was like that also. I mean, I'm not like that at all. I can't remember things at all. It is said Jiva Goswami and Bhaktisiddhanta, if they read something once, they would remember perfectly the rest of their life. How'd you like to have that gift in school? Just once, just study once. And you understand it and you can repeat it verbatim. No such people available. But Jiva Goswami had, so he would write his commentaries, and then no spell check, no editing, nothing. I mentioned this. Rupa Goswami eventually entrusted all of his writings to Jiva, and he kept this library. And as you probably know, Rupa Goswami didn't stay at the Radha Damodar temple, but Jiva Goswami placed his body at the Radha Damodar temple, the Samadhi. Bhajan Kutir and Samadhi, because Rupa would sometimes visit his disciple. And many of the Goswamis would sometimes visit the Radha Damodar temple because it was a temple. There weren't temples at a certain point in time. Large beads. Here's the front of the temple. And before we saw what it might have looked like when Jiva Goswami was there, because his deity was over on the right side. Now there's the main altar that's right in the center. And some of you may be familiar with the year that Srila Prabhupada took some of the devotees to Vrindavan, took them on parikram, and spent 30 days giving lectures on nectar of devotion by the side of Radha Damodar temple. They're very nice lectures, celebrated lectures, nice, very nice. And the very next year, I can't remember what year that was. My vague memory is it was 1970. And then in 1971, some of those devotees, particularly Guru Das and others, took just the regular Prabhus on the same parikrama that Prabhupada took them on. And when we went to the Radha Damodar temple, I remember this very specifically. You were looking at that photograph of the altar. The way things were set up then, it's not now. But you could circumambulate around the temple 3 times. Now you can't do that. It's just like not there. But at that time, it was to walk across and behind the deity. He pointed out, Guru Das pointed out, there's a platform that's over on top of a hollow area that's in the shade and in the heat, the hot summers of Vrindavan. The Goswamis would go there sometimes, and when it was cool, in the midst of the heat of the hot summer, and they would discuss Krishna Katha on the back side of the altar. It's all changed now. But they would regularly get together and strategize the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Here's a nice photograph. We're getting close to ending. Here's a nice photograph of the altar today with, the big assembly of many, many different Vaishnavas, deities, at least the replacement deities, because some of the original deities went to Jaipur. Notice in the front, you see that red cloth in the front. It's not a deity. The red cloth in the front is the Shila that Krishna arranged for Sanatana Goswami by Krishna putting his footprint on a stone, a Govardhan Shila, and his impression, the impression of Krishna's foot is there. Because Sanatana Goswami had become very old and difficult for him to circumambulate around Govardhan Hill. So Krishna said, you don't have to do that, you just go around this Shila and it's your Govardhan Parikrama. You're too old to do this. So he did. And then that Shila, when he departed, was taken to the Radha Damodar temple. And that's what's on the front. And a few rupees, they'll show you the Shila. So here's the names of some of these deities, left to right. Radha Vrindavan Chandra, that's Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's deities, the replacement deities that are there. Radha Damodar with the Lita on the side. And then Jayadev Goswami. Jayadev Goswami. You've all heard Jayadev Goswami. And when Lord Chaitanya came, Lokanath and Bhugarbha came. Bhugarbha Goswami's samadhi is also over to the right. As you look at the altar, there's Rupa and Rupa Goswami Samadhi and Bhajan Kutir. Way over, far against the wall to the right side, Bhugarbha Goswami's Samadhi is there. Lord Chaitanya sent Bhugarbha and Lokanath before he came to Vrindavan. So they were there to be with him and receive him and so forth. So he had deities. Chanchi Kaniya. Chalchi Kaniya. Radha Chalchi Kaniya. Here's the altar again. Here's a close-up of the main deity in the center. And here it is. Here's the main deity on Akshaya Tritiya. Jiva Goswami also had a place that he sometimes stayed when he was in Radhakund. So this is the temple and the altar at Radhakund. Here, next to the Radha Damodar deity, is Vilasa Manjari Gopi, who it is said Jiva Goswami formerly was Vilasa Manjari Gopi. And we're about to end. Here's some prayers that a 19th century poet, I don't know so much about him, but he's apparently a celebrated personality, Rasa Bihari. To the peerless lotus feet of Srila Jiva Goswami, I offer constant obeisances. He is a desire-fulfilling tree who possesses a mind full of compassion and is a true friend of the fallen and distressed, always considering himself to be a bee-like servant at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Goswami and Sri Sanatana Goswami. He contributed many conclusions in his books to spread the glories and fame of Lord Krishna far and wide. Two more, and we're done. This is Baladev Vidyabhusan's glorification, short. By the mighty spade of his nectarian words, Jiva Goswami tossed aside the dirt of the fallacious Sankhya arguments and recovered Krishna's splendor from the pit of nectar, from the pit of Vivartavad. May he be our refuge. Kind of chivalrous words. And one last, this is Narayana Bhatta. Some of you may know something about him. He was 6 Goswamis. He's from a different sampradaya, but he had a similar mission of specifically restoring places of Krishna's pastimes. And he did. Vast number of places were identified. So he writes this in his writings about Jiva Goswami. I offer my repeated humble obeisances unto Srila Jiva Goswami, whose heart is constantly attracted to the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami. He is the crest jewel of all Vaishnava Vrajavasis, and due to his causeless mercy, he bestows unimaginable joy to even non-philosophical, dull-headed, and lazy people by his deep philosophical views. Jiva Goswami Ki Jai. That's a little different than the Bhagavad Gita discussion, but I think it's suited for this audience. And you're ready to circulate the microphone. Okay. Anybody like to discuss any points or questions? Yes?
Maharaj, at the beginning you mentioned about the Vallabha. So this is the same.
Could you turn the speaker so it's facing me? Because I just turn the speaker so it's facing me.
Vallabha you mentioned That
Vallabhacharya.
yeah. So same who had the discussion with Lord Chaitanya in Banaras about the holy name. Same Vallabhacharya. That question.
I don't think so,
Okay.
but I'm not sure. Because Vallabhacharya, I don't think so.
Because you said he came from the Vishnu Swami
Yeah.
Sampradaya, it said.
Yeah.
Not the Vallabha Sampradaya, which
No,
is
he is also from Vishnu
he's
Sampradaya.
from the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya.
I don't think so. But I invite you, you want to research it? You're asking the question.
Yes.
I can research it for you, or you can research it for all of us.
I don't know where
You-
to find out.
Okay. You send me a little note,
Okay.
and in between this and that, I'll see if I can find the answer to your question.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. Another clarification. You have shown the Govardhan Sila. So it was Raghunath Das Goswami or Sanatan Goswami?
The Govardhan Shila is different.
Okay.
There's the Govardhan Shila that Raghunath Das Goswami personally worshipped. And that's not there. That Govardhan Shila that Raghunath Das Goswami worshipped is in another temple in Vrindavan. And the flat Shila that Krishna placed his foot on for Sanatan Goswami
Okay.
is at the front side of the Radha Damodar temple. Or
Thank you.
Radha Damodar altar.
Thank you so much.
Two different Shilas. Gokulananda is the other temple where the Raghunath Das Goswami Shila is. Gokulananda.
I thought it is the same.
No. The Shila that Lord Chaitanya gave to Raghunath is very small.
Okay.
Like, small, in the palm of your hand. And this is large, like Krishna's foot. And flat.
Thank you, Maharaj. It was really awesome. Just a question. Is it true that Srila Jiva Goswami has compiled more verses than Srila Vyasdev?
How is that possible? How many verses are in all the Puranas? And
It is actually, I heard this and then I've read it somewhere.
Okay, I haven't. But I'm asking, how many verses in all the Puranas and all the Shrutis I don't know the number. Yeah, very large. Padma Purana is particularly vastly large. And Mahabharata, that's 1/4 of what he wrote. So I don't know. I don't know the number. I've not heard what you said. You can do some homework.
Yeah, it is there on the internet, but like I was not.
On the internet, come on. Anything else? Yes?
What would be your advice for those of us, and especially young aspiring devotees, wanting to be scholarly and their ambitions to go to a very good school and get the knowledge? Because Srila Jiva Goswami had
Bhakti from childhood. You know the answer. I mean, you're asking for advice. Scholarship isn't the path. Bhakti is the path. And from bhakti causelessly comes knowledge and detachment. So because he had mega bhakti, his studies resulted in his being, who has a perfect memory? Jiva Goswami. So it's not just that he knew information, just like these two questions. I don't know the answer to these two questions. What you find online, you can, I was going to say something that I shouldn't say. Graffiti in a toilet room or something. You can't go by that. So it's something authorized, some acharya capacity person indicating something. So see if you can find that. If not, then you just move on. Don't bother with it. It's vast. So, now, scholarship. My experience is that take any topic and in relation to Krishna, it's like an ocean that doesn't have a bottom. You keep going, and there's something behind that, and you keep going, there's something behind that, and there's something behind that, and something behind that. There's no limit. So what is it that's limitless? That's the personality of Godhead. The personality of Godhead is not just an energy or an entity like Brahman that knows no limit. It's a person. Krishna is a person. And knowledge of that person is without limit. So as much as one can develop affinity in bhakti for the Supreme Person, and that becomes possible through disciplic succession, and that means specifically contact with a qualified spiritual master who lives their life according to the predecessor acharyas and so forth and so on. So then that's worth pursuing. And without that, it's not worth pursuing. With that, it's worth pursuing. But not for the sake of knowing more, for the sake of being connected to the Supreme Personality of Godhead more. So say it's same thing in a different way. Same thing in a different way. Supposing you have curiosity. It's good to have curiosity. Brahma Jigyasa. It's good to have inquisitiveness into the nature of the absolute truth. Human form of life, inquire into the nature of the absolute. But it's not just information about, because information isn't going to give you understanding of the personality of Godhead. You pile information upon information upon information upon information and big skyscraper of information. You're not going to know the personality of Godhead. But a simple person, Gorkishore Das Babaji, according to what Prabhupada had said, he couldn't write his name. But he was so vastly learned, not by scholarship, but just by his bhakti and who he heard from. Who he heard from was Jagannath Das Babaji. He was illiterate, but he heard from Jagannath. So he when Gorkishore, there's a period of Gorkishore's time, he was living in Vrindavan, and he went here and there, and he was a celebrity, although he couldn't read and write. On the strength of his bhakti, and from bhakti having heard, that was his wealth. He was a perfectly realized person without having scholarship. Prabhupada tells the story that when there was a period of time when he was residing at a temple near Keshigat, and near Keshighat is a place not far from the Radha Raman temple. So he noticed that there was one very simple lady, not educated, very poor. Every day she brought a lota of Jamuna water and brought it and placed it near the altar, and the pujaris would take that lota of the Jamuna water and use it in worship of the deity. And she did that every day for her life. No scholarship. And Prabhupada said everybody knew when she left her body, she went back to Godhead. No scholarship, but just bhakti. Simple. No, if one has capacity, then use the capacity. If one doesn't have the capacity, no problem. But the bhakti is the principle, not the scholarship. So, if one has propensity and being curious, fantastic. But make sure it's done for Krishna, not just for scholarship. And then it can be, it can be either a fine line or you fall in the pool of scholarship and lose Krishna. That's a big misfortune.
You said Jiva Goswami showed the standard of writing a champu. So what exactly is a champu?
Somebody asked that yesterday.
Oh yeah.
And the devotee who I assigned to research it was, if he sends it to me, I'll forward it to you or to Advaita Charn. I'll send it to you. Sachi Sutta in the Chicago area, the suburbs. And the person, and there's some. I don't know. The first was I don't know. I'm not an encyclopedia. I don't know what a champu is. But Sri Radhika said, Bir Krishna Maharaj might know because he's made some recordings of champus, so he may know what a champu is. Okay, so he's going to do some research. Sachi Sutta. And if I get the answer, I'll forward to him and he can forward it to everybody. But the only little bit that I know, there's two little things. The format is question-answer. The format is question-answer, as anything that's Vedic. And there's some portions of it are meant to be sung. Those are the two little things that I know. But more than that, I don't know.
Did you say question and answer?
Question-answer. Snigdhakanta and Madhukanta are the questioner and the answer in Gopal Champu. One is asking, the other is answering. So it's the format. Student, teacher, or the inquirer and the one who gives the answers to the inquiry. That's the format. Bhaktivinoda Thakur used the same, in his Jaiva Dharma. Same. It's just two young college kids go to Navadvip. They heard about Navadvip, and when they get to Navadvip, guess what? They meet Babaji Maharaj, and then Babaji Maharaj. They have these discussions, and Babaji Maharaj has all the answers, and in the course of it's a way of telling the teachings and the life of Lord Chaitanya through questions and answers. Jaiva Dharma. It's a format. Anyone else? Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj, for a wonderful class. It
Okay.
was really very
You don't want a microphone.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much. With these pastimes regarding Jiva Goswami, we learned so much about the mood, about how our acharyas dealt, and it's very...
The vastness of things that they did. That's one of the things that blows my mind. Any one of those things is a life. And he did many such things. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for that, Maharaj. And just I have a question. I might be having couple questions in my question. That nowadays we see that the devotees who are practicing from long time, they are writing so many books with their experiences and everything, and we cannot go on shopping around and reading those books because we don't have time. So what do you suggest that? Because
you know the answer.
suggest for
Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita.
just stick to those.
Yeah, you don't have to stick to those. That's not what you asked. Your question is, there's so many choices, how do you select?
Yes, Maharaj.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then, and when you're reading, you'll find reference to this and reference to that, and you go to this and you go to that, and you learn more.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Behind you. No, back.
How to be Goswami?
How to become?
Goswami.
By being the follower of.
Living in this...
By being the follower of.
Okay.
There's a very nice verse in a very nice book by Raghunath Das Goswami that I cherish. And the verse is verse number 4. Manashiksha, he's instructing his mind, my dear mind, Manashiksha. If you at all desire to eternally engage in the loving service of Radha Krishna in Vrindavan, 2 things. Give up pride.
So easy.
Then the second is the other answer, become an ardent follower of Rupa Goswami, his brother Sanatan Goswami, and oh Krishna, my mind is going blank. The person who Raghunath Das Goswami was given the assignment to become his teacher. Help me. This is my poor memory on display. Who was Raghunath Das Goswami's teacher in Puri? Swarup Damodar. Thank you. My mind just went blank. So those 3 names he mentions: Rupa, Swarup Damodar, and Sanatan Goswami. And they're Rupa and his associates. Swarup Damodar and Sanat, his elder brother. So he Raghunath, looked up to for good reason, and he became a Goswami because of them. Now he had other assets. He had profound renunciation, and he had other assets that we don't so much have. But his renunciation wasn't his asset. His asset was his devotion for these exalted persons and the mercy that they gave to him. He was eager for the mercy, and they gave it eagerly because he was a good recipient. So there's the answer. By following. Without pride. Small thing. Yes. We have the microphone up front.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. And Jiva Goswami, he supported, he put on so many arguments to support his gurus, and then still he was punished by Rupa Goswami to stay away from Vrindavan, and then he had to undergo severe austerities. And from this, what can we understand how to serve the spiritual master.
Okay. Rupa Goswami scolded him or banished him from Vrindavan for a transcendental reason. And it worked. So your question is how to serve. What he did later on was he was defending the honor. He did the same thing, defending the honor of Rupa and dealing with Rupa Narayan. So you honor the Guru, but understand the mood of the Guru and understand if the Guru chastises you, it's like your mother or father giving you bitter medicine because you have a disease that needs bitter medicine. It's not because you're bad. They give you bitter medicine. So if how to serve is your question, it's not Rupa Goswami chose to give the medicine that he chose to give for a reason. Because, whatever his reason, we can say maybe this, maybe that, but he wanted his disciple Jiva Goswami to be squeaky clean. Hit va dum bum, freed from pride.
Understood.
You follow?
Yes, understood, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And I have one more question, if that's
Okay, go ahead.
And in that verse, the word pisachi,
Yeah.
first part I understood, but
Yeah,
the
the
second
material.
part is how the material liberation is a pisachi.
Because it makes the hard heart. Striving for liberation's sake, not for the purpose of pleasing Krishna, but for the purpose of getting out of the material existence, makes the hard heart. And the hard heart isn't sufficiently soft to perceive the happiness of bhakti. The heart becomes hard. The austerities and the philosophical negation of the form of Krishna, because I want out, and anything that has form is part of this place. So Krishna has form, that means Krishna's covered, it's Mayavad.
Okay. It is like outside bhakti, it's not in the mood of
Correct.
serving Krishna.
You got it.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
You got it. And you go on this end or that end of the pan scale. Materialism or negation of materialism. Simply negation of materialism makes the heart harder. It's a witch. Vaibhav.
Thank you so much for the class. So my question is, what's the difference between smart and intelligence?
Ask your father. No, there's different kind. Real intelligence is not smart. The real intelligence is real intelligence. Real intelligence is discerning the personal feature of the absolute truth. That's intelligence. A function of intelligence is discernment or discrimination, in the good sense of discrimination. Here's what IQ tests do. IQ tests are meant to measure your or someone's intelligence. And it's very simpler. They have multiple choice, and you say which one doesn't fit with the other three. And there's tricks. But it's discernment. And that's what intelligence does. It discerns. That real intelligence is not just discerning out of a group of four things which one doesn't fit. That's an IQ test. But real intelligence, that from which everything has come, and my relationship with that from which everything has come. That's intelligence. And smart is you have a good IQ. Okay?
Hi Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the wonderful class. I have a question, like, Jiva Goswami wrote lot of literature, like, you mentioned all the books.
Yeah.
So for the daily practitioner of Bhakta, which book you recommend from Jiva Goswami?
From Jiva Goswami?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, what do you like vanilla? Do you like strawberry? Or no chocolate, right?
No, we get so confused.
There's
like
different flavors.
So life is very short. We can't cover all these books, like, So with our material commitments,
And
like,
my answer is depends on what's your favorite flavor. In other words, Gopal Champu is a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, but it's a certain style, the Champu style, and it retells the story. And there's some things in Gopal Champu, some details in Gopal Champu that are not in Srimad Bhagavatam. So it doesn't make it better literature. Then there's Krama Sandarbha that says verse by verse. Here's another one. Jiva Goswami was asked by Sanatana Goswami, can you please review and edit my 10th Canto Bhagavatam commentary, Vaishnava Toshini. So he did. Then he wrote a commentary on his commentary, Vaishnava Toshini Tika. So it depends on, not chocolate chip, almond chip. There are different flavors, different tastes. Different persons have different tastes. So, a fundamental one, I'll give you two fundamental ones. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that's fundamental. That's another commentary. But Sri Brahma Samhita, because the range, but the size is small. So that's a nice one. It's a good one. Tattva Sandarbha, the first of the six, because it introduces the topic of Krishna before he goes into the visions. It's, how do you understand? He writes, in the beginning of Tattva Sandarbha, he writes, I want to talk about Krishna. But before you talk about Krishna, it should be decided, what's the best means of talking about Krishna? And how are you going to know what is Krishna Tattva? Then he goes into, there's different procedures. And then he rules out some and he leaves others, by sound. Then there's some sound that's not good. There's some sound that's good. So it's analytical, but it's a foundational teaching to help you and me and people that want to go through bhakti literatures and understand how to discern properly based upon tattva. Bhagavad Tattva.
Thank you, Maharaj.
So those are two. Tattva Sandarbha and Sri Brahma Samhita.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Do you have time for another question?
Yeah, sure. One. You have the last question. You have something?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I can.
Oh, no, go
Okay.
ahead. Mine was a bit of a controversial question, so I don't know which bring it up or not.
That's your choice. You can bring it up or not bring it up.
Let me bring it up anyway. It's Akbar.
Akbar.
Yes, you said he was a great Vaishnava.
I didn't say. Jiva Goswami said.
So I'm sure a lot of people in this, group probably are thinking about the same question.
I don't know.
So, but there's bad things we hear about him too, and perhaps, I don't know, maybe he was not as bad. His sons were definitely bad.
Yeah. That's the ones that were bad, not him.
Not him, okay. So I wanted to clear that up.
Yeah. It's not him, it's his sons.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
other son
that
was,
makes
was a
sense,
terrorist.
yeah. Yes, yeah.
Your question.
Maharaj, thank you so much. I've heard that in order to develop character or qualities, we meditate on, like you said, the heroes or role models,
Yeah.
acharyas. do you have any recommendations on any specific qualities that we could meditate on with Jiva Goswami in the case of Jiva Goswami?
Well, 3. There are many, but humility, pridelessness, and service. He liked service. When he first got there, he got the parikrama of Vrindavan, and then he just served Rupa and Sanatan both, his 2 uncles, because his father was gone, and they were his, the next kith and kin. But he wasn't on the bodily platform of consciousness. He just liked service. So serving the Vaishnavas. And humility. One can't go forward without humility. We can't go spiritually forward without humility. And pridelessness, it's a little discussion. What's the distinction between humility and pridelessness? Amanidvam, adambitvam, they're different. They're similar, but they're different. They're foundational. And Rupa Goswami had them excellently. And it was a basis for him to build, what he built. The foundation was what upon which his writings and his service were built. Humility and pridelessness. He didn't want to serve Lord Chaitanya, wanted to serve his brother, his uncles, who wanted to serve Lord Chaitanya. So he imbibed their mood from them by the mood of service. And then when he did have the gift of intellect, etc., 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 he never abused it. I'm going to end.